Kudzu is a new and original Game Boy title, getting its digital Nintendo Switch release after previously releasing on a physical Game Boy cartridge, thanks in part to a successful Kickstarter campaign. If you want to play it in its original form, there is the option to grab a physical copy through MegaCat Studios' website when they have them in stock. I'll have links to both in the description box below. For those learning about Kudzu for the first time here, what I mean when I say this is an original Game Boy title is that it is just that. It was designed to run on actual Game Boy hardware, and as such is confined to the limitations of that system. Just know going into this that it's not an indie game designed to run on modern platforms that just mimics the style of the original Game Boy, but that it is a genuine Game Boy experience through and through. So that means things like the occasional bout of slowdown should be expected. Now that we've laid the groundwork for this review, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as I cover a lot of different indie games here. So with that said, let's get to it. In Kudzu, you will step into the shoes of Max, an apprentice gardener who discovers that his mentor has disappeared in a nearby field. Throughout Max's journey, you will unfold the story by visiting unique areas, interacting with NPCs, engaging in side quests, and battling many different types of creatures and bosses in this mostly non-linear adventure game. I'm sure you can tell already by the gameplay without me having to tell you, but The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening was very clearly an inspiration. But make no mistake about it, although on the surface it looks very similar, it plays quite a bit different. For one, you will never have more than just your basic swing attack. Every upgrade you acquire will come as a passive upgrade, so you'll mostly just use one button for combat. So that means no blocking. Also, there's no heads-up display to showcase your health, and while you'll have a little pop-up above Max's head when it's getting low, I felt like I died a few times more than I should have, not even realizing when my health was low. This is for a combination of reasons. The first is the lack of information on screen. Sure, you can hit the pause menu to check your health, and you'll often have some Kudzu jelly to replenish some of it, but it's possible to get hit and not realize it at times. That leads us to complaint number 2. There are no sound effects for combat at all. When Max attacks, gets hit, when enemies or bosses attack, none of these things have any sound effects at all. The entirety of this journey will rely on visual cues as a result. I wouldn't say this design choice is a deal breaker. I got used to it rather quickly, honestly, but since it's entirely possible to have sound effects in addition to music on Game Boy, I'm not sure why they didn't here. It's a bit unfortunate because it makes the combat feel less satisfying, in my opinion. Since we briefly already mentioned the lack of sound effects, it feels like a good time to mention the music. There's quite a bit of variety to it throughout the many different environments, and it's all really good and appropriate for each area. The pixel art is all really good too, especially the bosses, with some of them being massive in size on the small screen. Over the course of Max's journey, there's a constant sense of progression as you earn new tools to interact with the world in new ways, allowing you to enter areas you couldn't before or even solve puzzles that required a specific tool in order to complete them. Exploration through Kudzu's world is definitely encouraged as there are plenty of secrets and hidden goodies to find. You can search for collectible goats and a certain type of weeds which can net you some optional upgrades. If you want to kill some time, you could play a fishing minigame, or you can stop by to pet Gregory the goat. Who wouldn't want to pet Gregory? Fishing is a great way to earn some extra mushrooms, which are the form of currency here, and having some extra on hand allows you to purchase some new area maps and buy anything you might need for the two different in-game shops. There's a lot to see in Kudzu, so much so that I found myself being a bit flabbergasted at a few points that this is a Game Boy game. The world felt thoughtfully designed and open, but also linear enough where you wouldn't become lost and frustrated. Backtracking is encouraged, as you'll no doubt run into some areas where you lack the tools the first time around. Kudzu has a good bit of variety in the base enemy designs, and the bosses are exceptional, with some really well thought out mechanics and patterns. The only real negatives of the experience stem from its lack of sound effects and that you have minimal time to react when taking damage, which when you combine these two things together, they result in some cheap feeling deaths. And just to be clear, there are some sound effects, just not with the combat. One more thing that I want to mention that isn't necessarily bad, and I understand why it functions this way, but it is a bit weird, is how opening the menu resets the currently active screen, including enemies. I didn't do this on purpose to cheese enemy placement when I was about to get hit, but I guess if you wanted to, you could. But the overall experience of Kudzu felt fun, to the point where I just wanted to keep playing. Seriously, I burned through this in just a few play sessions. I just wanted to keep playing because I was having that much fun. If you require more time than it took me, have no fear, as there are plenty of tents where you can replenish your health by sleeping on the cot, then save at the radio in order to pick up where you left off later. Kudzu is a lot of fun, and is a game I highly recommend everyone plays. If you made it this far into my review, then you're no doubt still interested in what it has to offer. And make no mistake about it, there is a lot to it that I didn't show. I did my absolute best to show mostly early game footage as to not spoil the fun puzzles and bosses this game has to offer. Fun gameplay, good music and art, some humor, side activities, plenty of upgrades and exploration. There's a lot to keep you engaged, and I hope that if you decide to play it, which you definitely should, that you enjoy it as much as I did. I appreciate you watching this review and hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And a special thank you to 8-Bit Legit for bringing another fun retro indie experience to modern platforms to reach new audiences and be a bit more accessible. The small touches like the screen borders and the full manual being included are always nice inclusions. I always loved reading the instruction manuals of my games when I was a kid, so the inclusion of them in your releases is not overlooked by me, that's for sure. The first thing I do is always look through the manual. So keep the new releases coming, keep them coming. But until next time, have a good one.